Hey guys, before we start this stream, I just want to say that we're talking about suicide and being suicidal. Now, I know that this is a subject that many people have dealt with, some people are currently dealing with, and I just want to say if you're currently going through this, one, if this is triggering to you, please don't watch this live stream. And two, if you're currently suicidal or thinking about taking your life, please talk to someone, get help. It's not something that you should go through alone or deal with. You can call the suicide hotline. You can talk to a parent, a friend, a family member. The suicide hotline is 1-800-273-8255. Please guys, get help. It's not something you should deal with alone. It's not something that you should go through. So, yeah. Anyways, we're going to jump into the live stream. I'm going to be sharing my personal story and why I don't watch 13 Reasons Why. So hopefully this is a good conversation, and I'm really excited to open this conversation with you guys because it's something really important that a lot of people don't talk about. Okay, love you guys so deeply, and let's jump into the stream now. Okay, so this stream, as I said before, is going to be about my personal story battling being suicidal, and then me talking about why I can't/won't watch 13 Reasons Why. So yeah, when I first thought about doing this stream, it was just going to be about 13 Reasons Why. And then I realized that what I have to say about that makes absolutely no sense unless you know my backstory, because then it makes sense, the choices I'm making. So, Emma says, hey. Hey, Emma, welcome to the stream. Okay, so my personal story. Well, and also, first off, if you're going through this currently, please get help. Talk to someone, whether it's your parents, a friend, a random person, or calling the suicide hotline is not something that you should be going through alone. And so, yeah, I just wanted to say that the number is 1-800-273-8255. Memorized it because that song is amazing. So, I'm going to get into my personal story. Hello to anyone joining. Welcome. So, we're going to be talking about, my personal story and 13 Reasons Why. So, I guess my story starts back when I was about 13. I had a couple friends, but they both turned out to not be my friends, and they screwed me over, and so I had 0 friends, and I was in a lot of pain from what they had done, and I was very sad and alone. So this starts off really great. So I slipped into this state of depression that just got deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper to and this started in the fall/winter of my 13th year. By the spring of my 14th year, which would have been 2014/2015, I think this, no, 13, sorry, 2013. By the spring of 2013, I was in such a deep state of depression that I honestly wanted to kill myself/those who had hurt me, because I was that just hopeless and alone, and I felt like no one cared about me or loved me or anything. And again, I'm not telling this story for pity or sympathy or anything. It's just a fact that happened. So, it was a very, very, very dark state, and I didn't tell anyone about it. No one knew. And I just battled day in and day out with these thoughts and these feelings, and just wanting to off myself as a way to escape my depression and my aloneness, but also to get back at those who I thought hurt me and put me in this position. So that went on for quite a long time. I started to, I don't want to say get better, but my life was kind of shit for that entire year. It really sucked. And I was really depressed and suicidal. But the thing that kept me from actually making an action to take my life was the fact that I had been raised going, oh, suicide's a sin. So I was too terrified to ever actually take my life because I thought if I took my life, I want to go to heaven. And I was super, super scared. So I didn't make any move, but I wanted to. It was really bad. It really was bad. And so I kind of just lived in that state of mind for a couple years, honestly. If I'm being honest, I started to make real friends the next year, and I started to like be happier in a way, but I was still depressed and I still didn't have a will to live. Now, one of the things that really impacted me and caused me to think in that way that I've been able to narrow it down was the fact that I was in physical pain. Being in physical pain or chronic pain, it completely alters the way you think. Unless you've gone through it, you will not be able to understand it. And it completely changes the way you think, the way your mind functions. If you're going through physical pain, you can go through like emotional or mental pain. Wait, did I say I forgot. I don't know whether I said it. If you're not going through physical pain, you can take a lot more. If you're going through physical pain that does not go away, your mind will break so easily. And that's what happened with me. I had chronic back pain and back problems for 4 years. And it was those 4 years that I developed my suicidal tendency and being depressed. And it wasn't the cause of it, but it was a huge factor in it. And when I finally got my back fixed, I was able to step out of that. But that was one of the big factors. Another was just like, I was sad and alone and bored. So, yeah, I had to be very careful with myself. I wrote about it in my song Happy Birthday a bit. I can, I guess, put the link in my description if you guys haven't watched it. I honestly, at age 13 and 14, I did not think that I would make it to my 18th year. Like, just flat out saying it. I did not think that I would live to the day to turn 18 and be legal. I thought I was going to die in between or kill myself or do something. It was really bad. And even when I turned 18, while it was a huge deal and I was completely stunned, I was going through a patch of deep depression / slight suicidalness. So I wrote Happy Birthday as a way to kind of express to the world, like, yo, I'm not okay. This is my life kind of thing. But for me, this is not a story of like, oh, how to get out of this state of mind or this or that. This is just my story. What kept me going was music. Music and writing. I could escape into music and listen to it, and in the music that I would listen to could give me hope. And then I started writing. I hated writing, but I started writing because I could create a world that was better than my own. Another thing was I hated waking up. It's crazy to anyone who hasn't gone through this. It sounds kind of crazy, but I hated waking up because my dreams were better than my life, even my nightmares. And I would live every day to go to bed because I liked dreaming because it was an escape. And so I would just pace myself through the day to go to bed. And then I would just write stories in my head all the time. And that's how I started writing books and stuff, because I needed a way to escape my world, so I started writing. And so, if you guys go through something like this, honestly, writing for me helped. Watching videos on YouTube, this and that. But what helped me the most was doing Taekwondo. And that's something that I really suggest to you guys. It allowed me to completely clear my brain for an hour every other day. I was able to go in and they worked you so hard, and you had to be completely focused on what you were doing for an hour, that I didn't have time to be able to think about that. And I just told this to my two of my favorite masters last week. I was like, because I expressed, no, I was suicidal I've been suicidal for the past 4 years, and Taekwondo was the only thing that kept me through. And they were like, wait, what? I said, yeah, it was the only time that I could get away from those thoughts. And then my favorite one kind of went, oh, yeah, when you came in, you were so focused. And I said, yeah, I wonder why. Anyways, so it not only was a break from those thoughts, but it was a different setting, and it was a workout and this and that. It really helped me a lot. So I suggest, doing Taekwondo or sport or something intensive that will allow you to get yourself outside of your head for a while. But yeah, so I did Taekwondo. I finally we got me to a physical therapist for like appointments every month, and I finally got my back fixed. And then I really surrounded myself with healthy, real friends, and that's what really, really helped me be able to fight those feelings and thoughts. And also having friends who understand it, not who encourage it, but who have gone through it and be like, no, I get it. It's tough. We understand. We're here for you. That was really important. That was so important for me. And there are some people who I'm friends with who haven't gone through it and they don't understand it. But it also can be encouraging to just talk to someone who's not in that state of mind. But it also can be frustrating because you're like, you don't get it. No, you don't get it. But, you can't make someone, oh, I wish you got it. No, that's horrible. Find someone who can get it. And then for me, I had to not drive while I was going through these feelings and emotions and this and that. I didn't when I was 16 and a half, going on 17, my parents, they were pressuring me like, hey, you need to get your permit. You need to get your permit because, you need to drive. And the problem for me was because I was so suicidal, I knew that I shouldn't drive because at any point, I wouldn't care if I crashed or I drove off the side of the road or I hit a tree or a truck or this or that. I didn't care. And I was so terrified to get my permit/license that it caused me to really spiral. And something that I noticed going through this is that if I was in depression, I could go through something that caused me so much joy and happiness. I could be so happy, and that night, I could be the worst that I've ever been. This happened the day that I told my mom for the first time. And guys, if you go through this, or if you know someone who's going through this, don't assume that someone can pick up on the signs. I gave off all the signals, all the signs, this and that. My parents had no idea. And I thought my parents knew, but they didn't. So we had just been at a friend's house, like close friends, party. And I was so happy. And on the drive home, I slipped into this state of mind that was so bad. I felt like actually disconnected from my mind, and it was so horrible, and I was just freaking out, and I was thinking about, oh my gosh, I have to drive this and that. It was horrible. And I got home and I was like losing my mind. I was like, what's going on? I was like, I'm feeling really, really suicidal. She's like, wait, what? And she's like, wait, you what? And I said, yeah, this is a normal thing. She's like, what? And I had to sit down for a couple hours and tell my mom everything. And it was so hard for her to hear that. But she was there for me, and my parents were there for me. And of course, they didn't know how to deal with it at first. They kind of overreacted and like would check in every couple hours of the day, like, are you okay? Are you okay? Are you okay? And of course that was annoying, but like your parents care about you. Like you're their biggest like joy in life. And so they were like really supportive and helpful, and they're like, do you need to go to Taekwondo for extra time today? Do you need to do this? Do you need to do that? How are you? Kind of thing. So that was really helpful. But that didn't keep me from having those thoughts. It was just, I now felt safe that my parents knew. So my mom really helped me step out of that state of mind in a healthier way. And so I got my permit, but if I didn't feel well, I would let my parents know so I wouldn't drive. I was like, no, that's not happening. But yeah, then I turned 18 and my license thing all happened, but I finally had my license. But yeah, so I think another thing that really contributed to my depression and stuff was the fact that I knew I was gay, but I wasn't okay with it. So that was just like, there's so many different things that factor into these thoughts and feelings. And if you can, this is something, if it's like a constant thing, there are certain times where someone experiences a situation that causes them to feel this way. But once the situation clears up, or once they're removed from this situation, it goes away and it's not something they constantly battle. Whereas for me, is if I slip into deep depression, I automatically become suicidal. So I have to be incredibly careful. But yeah, I've had to like peel away my depression, the layers of my depression, and figure out what causes that, and then do as much as I possibly can in order to prevent that. So that's kind of my story. I haven't felt suicidal since the fall of last year. For me, that's a very long time because I quit college, I came out this January, but like I quit college, I started working, and it was just like doing as much possible. But it's something that even though I currently don't feel, I know it's a constant for me that I have to be careful with. And that leads me into the 13 reasons why conversation. So, I'm assuming you guys all know what 13 Reasons Why is. It's the Netflix original show about a girl who commits suicide, but she records 13 tapes for the 13 people who contributed and caused her to do this. And then she sends the tapes to them and they have to listen to it, right? Yeah, so, Mamma Mia. So, what I just did is I just told my personal story. And so once it's posted, you can go back and listen to that if you want. But yeah, I'm going to be talking about 13 Reasons Why now. But now that you have, like, everyone else has, like, the backstory of why I feel this way. So, 13 Reasons Why, when I heard about it, I was instantly mortified. Because I feel like the people who wrote this and wanted to do this had the best intentions, but they did it in the worst possible way. Let me explain. So, as someone who deals with being suicidal as a kind of a constant in the back of my mind, and who has gone through it for so long, looking at this show, I'm instantly horrified. Now, I have friends who have gone through times of being suicidal, where they were suicidal in different instances or this or that, but it wasn't like a constant for them. They had that experience, who watched it and loved it, and they're like, no, I've been suicidal before, and this show's great, and I love it, and it's so eye-opening, and this and that. Whereas myself and some of my other friends who deal with it as a constant, we were just like, what the heck? No, it's horrible. This is not how you portray it. This is not the type of content you should be showing. And then other people who've never experienced being suicidal, they were just raving about this. Like, no, this is so perfect. It's so great. You know, the world's finally seeing how horrible being suicidal is. This lighting is terrible. My apologies. That's even worse. So, there we go. Okay. And so there was this huge split, and I kind of want to explain how I understand the split of people who either are like, no, this is horrible, or no, this is great. I think the difference is between people who currently deal with depression and being suicidal as like something in the back of their head constantly, and then people who haven't. Because if you don't currently go through this show isn't a trigger for you. And I think that's the big difference. This show is a trigger for people, and then it's eye-opening for others. But what people who have their eyes open don't realize is that it's hitting all the wrong marks when it comes to this subject. Megan says, I've never felt suicidal, but I felt that they took a real situation and over dramatized it. Yeah, there are so many videos on YouTube that you can watch, and people obviously go like 13 reasons why. I won't watch 13 reasons why. But I've watched a lot of people, and hey, someone just joined in. Welcome. And I've watched a lot of videos about. Mamma Mia asked, when you say trigger, what do you mean? Okay, let me explain that. I'll explain that in just a second. I've seen a lot of videos. You can go on there, and I can link some in the description if you want. I've watched a lot, and they really there's a lot of people who explain it nicely. But then there's a ton of people in the comments like, why are you saying this? I watched it, or I've been suicidal in the past, and I watched it, and it was great. And then there are other people who break it down, and they're like, no, this is bad. So when I say trigger, what do I mean? I mean that watching this could cause someone to want to kill themselves. It's a trigger to their suicidal thoughts and notions and feelings. For me, when I first heard about it, I said, no, I will not watch this. And even though I had a lot of friends who were like, come on, it's so great, you should totally watch this. I loved it and this and that. I went, no, because I know watching this, just from the basic plot, I know that I'm going to become mentally worse after watching this. So I can't do that. And it was a difficult stand to have because it was so like, oh yeah, let's totally watch it. It's great. And to be like, no, I won't watch it because it's not good for me. Because I'm suicidal. People are like, but you should totally watch it. Kind of like how I won't enter into conversations about being gay. And they're like, but you're gay. You should totally watch. You should totally do it. I'm like, no, because it's not healthy for me. Galaxy Spam says, it's also extremely triggering to rape victims from what I've heard from videos. Having chronic depression and suicidal thoughts doesn't mean you're going to attempt suicide. It's hard to explain. Oh my gosh. Okay, ready? One of my best friends explained it to me in a way that I have not been able to explain better. They said, having a suicidal notion and being suicidal isn't always about holding a gun up to your head and playing with a trigger or playing with knives and bringing them to your veins but then not cutting. It's not looking both ways before you cross the street. That explanation is the only explanation I've heard that I connect with the most. It's not about seeking ways to try to hurt yourself or kill yourself. It's about not caring if you do. It's the not caring if you do go. And that's something, even though I'm not currently suicidal, I had no will to live for the longest time. I didn't care. I didn't think I had a purpose. And in the past year or so, I've come to realize that, wait, I do have a message and a purpose. And there are people out there that I'm helping and able to help. But and even though I have that will to I want to continue to live and I want to change people's lives, I don't care if I die. It's just something that's a constant for me. I don't care. Denise says, best way to explain this, yes. Galaxy Spam says, exactly. That's the only way I've been able to explain it. And I do that. I don't even notice that I do it, but I don't really care if I look both ways or not. Or I don't care if I'm riding near the edge of the ski slope or this or that. It's just that lack of caring in the back of your head. Galaxy Spam says, I'm afraid to kill myself, but I'm not afraid to die. Yeah. Yep. That's me. No, I don't have a fear of death. Especially being a Christian, I'm like, I'm good. But it's a really hard thing that a lot of people joke about, but it's serious. It really is. So back to 13 Reasons Why. I have not watched the show, so I can't, you guys could be like, oh, well, this happened, or blah, 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 blah. But I've done a good amount of research into it. It romanticizes the action of suicide, in my opinion. It romanticizes it. All of this happens to her, yes. but then she gets revenge on all of them because she gets the last word and she kills herself. Like, she kills herself, but then everyone else gets these tapes and everyone feels bad about it, and she gets revenge on all the people that hurt her. And, like, first off, when you're that depressed and suicidal, you don't have the energy to do any of that. Like, I wanted to write letters. I almost started to back when I was really bad. I had no energy, no will to even do that. So first off, that's a very inaccurate representation that she would spend that much time recording 13 tapes. But second, even if she did, that is a horrible thing to, that's the plot. Like, the plot is her revenge on everyone else. And I cannot say how bad that is for anyone who's got these thoughts, because they get to watch this girl get revenge and finally be at peace, and she and everyone else, she got the last word. Everyone is so like sad and, oh my gosh, I caused this. Oh, like you don't do that. You don't put that in the media. There are so many people who would watch this and then want to do that. Like, will actually think that killing themselves is going to somehow get back or make them feel good or this or that at everyone. Like, that is horrible. And Ange says, important topic, great insight. Thank you so much. It's something that I have been dying to talk about for so long, but I had to first get into a space where I felt okay talking about it, but I also didn't know that people were willing to listen about it. So I'm glad you guys are. But yeah, it's not something that they just completely they went around it so wrong, making that the plot and putting that out there, because someone who's not suicidal, who's never experienced this, or they have but they've got, like, it's not a constant for them, they watch it and they go, wow, this is a really raw, deep, dark, insight into everything that caused her to do this and all the people who did this to her because they caused her to do this. First off, suicide is not anyone else's fault. It is a choice that you make. I don't care what. It is a choice that you make. In my head, during that time, I blamed it on those people who hurt me. And I was like, if I kill myself, it's their fault. No, I did that. I made that choice. So when you make it seem like other people's fault, especially in something like this TV show, and you make it seem like it's the persons who hurt her fault, they're completely at fault for hurting her. But it's not their fault that she did that to herself. And I just want to say that as someone who's gone through this, it is your choice. Megan says, that was my other problem. She was blaming others for her own actions. Exactly. She made that choice. That was her choice. It was not their fault. And for her to blame it on everyone else, it was just so wrong. And it really makes me upset. So I completely just started ranting, so I kind of lost where I was going. But what I was saying, they romanticized the idea so much, making it seem like it was someone else's fault. Jasmine Elaine. So what I'm talking about is 13 Reasons Why, and why I won't watch it, and I think they really misrepresented someone who's suicidal, and how it's not good as representation, because they over romanticized the idea of suicide, and they made it seem like she got back at everyone, and that she got revenge on all those people who hurt her, and that it was their fault. And no, she made the decision, and having a plot where she gets the last word is so wrong, because it will make people think that if they do that as well, it's going to somehow justify everything that happened to them, which it doesn't solve anything. It doesn't help anyone. You end up just, you lose your own life, and then you just haunt other people's minds like, wow, and you make them think it was their fault when it's actually you decided to do this. Mamma Mia says, in the show, she never says that it was their fault for her death. She said that they were the factors of why she killed herself. whether or not she says it was their fault, the fact that they do the plot of her doing all these tapes to send to people, and the fact that it's like her final hurrah to like get back at everyone, that's that mindset. Because I had that mindset too of, oh, it's their fault, they're the factors, they're the people making me do this, when they might be, they might be horrible and they might be driving you into depression and this and that, and having these thoughts, yes, but they did not physically make you do that. You did it. No matter how much of an altered state you had, you made that choice. And so it really makes me upset that they didn't like correct that way of thinking, and that they even assumed that someone who was that depressed and that suicidal had the energy to record all those things and think that out, because you don't have energy and you don't have that much, like, it's, I thought about doing it, honestly, I did, it's not something you have the energy to do. So yeah, that's my big problem, and it's hard to explain this to someone who hasn't been suicidal and who hasn't dealt with it as like a constant, not just a time in their life that they were suicidal. Like someone who's like, no, I could slip back into this, because there's, to so many people, this was a great show that was so eye-opening. But to a lot of people, this show could actually trigger them to the point where they want to commit suicide. Or because it's so over-romanticized, they might now go, well, if she got this, if she got her last word in, and she got the final say, and she got back at all these people because she wrote these letters and she committed suicide, she got back at them, it was their fault. Ha! That's such terrible thinking, and to think, and they're putting that in people's minds with the plot that they wrote. And so that's my biggest thing. Yeah. So I'm kind of done talking, but it's just something that I really have wanted to say for a very long time. Just that if you've ever like felt that way, or it's something that you deal with, this show is not something you should ever watch. And for someone who hasn't gone through it, this is such a terrible representation of us, or the way of thinking, because it's horrible. And I hear that they're making a season 2 or this or that. I can't watch it, and I'm not going to. And I hope you guys understand why, and maybe you guys agree with me. And I'm glad we were able to have this conversation about this subject, because it's so important. And hopefully you understand me a bit better. But yeah, again, if you have currently gone through this, don't be alone. Don't be alone in it. Talk to someone, whether it's a family, a friend, a random stranger you don't know that well, or calling the hotline. It's not something that you should go through alone. And thankfully, I wasn't alone, because I did get friends who go through this, but definitely telling my parents was a big deal, because they love me so much that they just want the best for me. So yeah. Okay, so that stream, wow. I'm so glad we were able to have that. And again, if you're going through this, please reach out to someone. I will leave the number for the suicide hotline in the description. But seriously, just reaching out to anyone while you're going through this, it's going to help you so much, because you shouldn't be alone in this. And also, I hope you guys understand, or can understand, or respect my views on 13 Reasons Why. And maybe if you didn't have this view already, you can kind of understand where I'm coming from and the reasoning behind it. And maybe it will change your mind if you think differently. But yeah, it's a very unhealthy portrayal of someone who is suicidal. It's a very inaccurate portrayal as well, but it also, the plot is such that it glorifies it in a way, and it over romanticizes it, and it could literally lead to someone else's death, because if they are made to think that, oh, you can get revenge on people, or I will somehow feel better or fulfilled if I do this. No, you're just gone. That's it. It doesn't solve anything. And your life is worth so much more than just a ooh, let me try to get back at those who have hurt me. So, or let me just get out of this pain. There's always better ahead. And it's, yeah. Well, it seems like this is eternity. It will come to an end, and you'll be able to continue and go on, because I'm living proof that, yeah. Yeah, anyways, so I love you guys so much. Again, you are loved and worthy of love. Don't let anyone tell you differently, and I'll catch you guys next Monday. Please share this with your friends, your family, anyone, because you have no idea who's going through this, and you just don't know. So, yeah. All right. See you guys on Monday. Bye.